For the first time in history, prosecutors have charged a Roman Catholic cardinal with sexually abusing a minor. It's hard to understate the significance of that sentence. A cardinal charged with sexual abuse. Pope Francis kicked Theodore McCarrick out of the church over charges he abused both minors and adults in seminary school. For decades, prosecutors took particular interest in a case from 1974. First came to light in January. This case is decades old. McCarrick was a priest in Massachusetts. And this charge makes McCarrick the highest-ranking member of the Catholic Church to be charged in the abuse scandal. Bob Bianchi prosecuted pedophile priests and those who covered up for them at the New Jersey State's Attorney's Office. He joins us now. Bob, it seems as though this case would be very difficult to prove, but also incredibly significant.
Yeah, it's got huge significance, Leland, and it's about time that we've gotten to a place where all the obfuscation and the bureaucracies are now giving victims an opportunity not to be shackled to statutes of limitation, which will be an issue in this case. But the prosecutors feel that the fact that McCarrick left the state gives them the opportunity to bring these charges. Assuming the statute is upheld, this is an extremely serious case because they've gone after the highest level of the Catholic Church, literally. Cardinals, in case your audience doesn't know, are the highest level that you can get right underneath the Pope. So it's sending a very bold and strong message. And I have one other message as well from having been dealing with these cases. I hope they go a step further, and anyone that aided and abetted or transferred them over to another parish for them to continue to victimize young people are also being held to account. As a devout Roman Catholic myself, it's a black mark on us, and we're tired of having to deal with it. So I welcome this prosecution.
We like to say two things can be true at once, right? You can have tens of thousands of really phenomenal priests who do the Lord's work and are great, great men. And then you can have some really horrific individuals who prey on the most vulnerable. Those two things can be true at once. At the same time, you make a very interesting point, especially about McCarrick, in terms of those who covered up, those who enabled. And there was the movie Spotlight that talked about this very issue in Boston with McCarrick and with others. I'm wondering, has there yet been any kind of attempt to prove a case of covering up, of enabling, of conspiracy?
Not in my view, at least from the cases that I was dealing with regard to priests, because, again, a lot of these allegations don't come forward until years later because of the victimization of these people. So it's very difficult to put a case together. It's been through the expansion of those statutes of limitations where prosecutors now have the ability to do it if they want to. But, again, keeping in mind, Leland, like you said, it's tough no matter how you look at it to prosecute a case that's 30 years old where essentially it's going to be a he said, and the jury has to determine straight out on the credibility of the witness as opposed to having any independent corroborative evidence.
I don't want to correct your math, but more than 40 years old. So the victim now would be somewhere in his mid-50s. It's an anonymous victim, but we were able to obtain a statement from his attorney. Historically, this is the first time ever in the United States that a cardinal has been criminally charged with a sexual case against a minor. It takes an enormous amount of courage for a sexual abuse victim to report having been sexually abused to investigators and proceed through the criminal process. Let the facts be presented, the law applied, and a verdict rendered. Interestingly enough, you've prosecuted cases and investigated them. You've also been a defense attorney. Who has the stronger case here, considering McCarrick's 91 years old, his victim now would be in his 50s?
Yeah, it's hard to say, Leland, because what it's coming down to, as I noted before, is the credibility of the victim. And prosecutors can prosecute, just so everybody understands, just on the credibility of the victim alone. But there are some other little things here where it had supposedly happened at his brother's wedding, which is a documented event, so he knew the actual date. There were postcards given by former Cardinal McCarrick to him, so that shows there was a connection between him and the boy. So all those things prosecutors will use. And I'm pretty confident, having been the head of an agency, that I would not pull the trigger, if you will, on a case of this high-profile nature with a high-profile individual unless I knew I had it pretty well locked and loaded, because they could be really suffering a lot of embarrassment if they lose. So I'm going to give the edge to the prosecutors.
Excellent perspective, Bob. The arraignment is September 3rd. Thank you.
You got it, Leland.